Hello, we're coming to you from Venture Industries' former apparel division. Today we're going to work on Dr. Byron Orpheus, the master of mysticism, and what you're going to need to put together his costume. You're going to need a 70s style smoking jacket, a white shirt with blood red tie, charcoal gray, or black pinstripe dress pants, some dress shoes, or in this case, some snazzy boots, a Dracula trophy, aka amulet, some white hairspray, and then a vampire cloak or cape. Now we'll get into the details of each of these specific items, and I'll show you some samples of where you can buy them, and also some reference photos so that you can put this all together.
First, let's start with the smoking jacket. If you do a search on eBay, you'll see several places or persons which are selling the 70s style costume smoking jacket. Most of these will either be in a satin or in a crushed velvet, and the prices will range anywhere from about $17 up to about $40. Of course, if you're getting something with lesser quality, then you shouldn't really expect much, but some of these smoking jackets claim to be vintage and can sell for up to $200. The white shirt and the red tie are probably the easiest to find. You can get those at most department stores, Walmart, JCPenney's, so on. If you're a bit more thrifty and you hope to find those at thrift stores, just be forewarned, you're probably going to run into a little ring around the collar, but if you're fine with that, if you don't mind washing everything, then you'll probably come out ahead and save yourself some money. Now for the pants. The pants are typically a charcoal gray, and in the cartoon, his pinstripes are very, very wide. So if you can find a wider pinstripe or an exaggerated pinstripe, that actually is to your advantage. But in most cases, what you're going to find is you're going to find stereotypical thin pinstripes. But you have to remember, stripes lead the eyes downward. In the case of shopping for the pants, your best bet would likely be go to a thrift store. You can buy a complete suit in some cases for as little as $3 to $10, and then you could retask that entire suit for another costume at another time. Also, if you wish to modify the pants and artificially put in the wider stripes, if you're only paying $5 for something, you feel a lot less guilty about messing it up or destroying it or altering it with a paint pen or something like that. Dr. O's shoes or boots can be a little bit more perplexing, especially if you're trying to make identical shoes. They look to be the stylish shoe that you would see from the 20s or 30s, the shoes that the zoot suiters might wear, with a slight pointed toe, definitely narrow across the front, but made up of several different sections. The most important thing is to find shoes or boots that you're going to be comfortable in. Beyond that, then you worry about aesthetics and worry about how detailed do I want to make this. Around Halloween is the best time to find the white hairspray, but I'm sure if you look online, you'll probably find party supply outlets or other e-stores that will have the white hairspray. For the most part, it should only cost about $2 a can. I'm not sure what shipping's going to be on something like that, but you'll need it to do his white walls and to do his white streak that's on his head. So while we're talking about hair color and colored hairspray, let's talk about facial hair. You'll see Dr. Orpheus has his forked beard, very similar to Doctor Strange, also similar to the facial hair or the overall look that we see in some classic film actors like Vincent Price or Walter Pidgeon. Walter Pidgeon, who was in Forbidden Planet, where he was named Dr. Morbius. He had similar beard, similar hair. In fact, he even had a hot daughter and was a single dad who was attempting to understand the secrets of the universe. Dean called this the Dracula trophy, and another word for it would be amulet. So if you do a search for amulet, you're likely to run across something that looks almost exactly like this. In fact, while doing a search to prepare this video, I found what I would deem as probably the most perfect rendition of Dr. O's amulet. Granted, it's a little bit more detailed than what we see in the cartoon, but we have to wonder what details they don't put in the cartoon, simply because it is a cartoon and you don't want to overburden the animators. The one that I'm showing you in the photos is actually a piece of wood. It's come from a craft store. It was painted gold with a bit of bronze for highlights. It is very, very ornate in comparison to the one that we see in the show. A plastic jewel was glued to it, and then pins were applied to the backside. The important thing that you need to remember with the amulet is you can use that as a clasp for the cape. so that when you put the cape on and you need it to be held over your shoulders and stay in place, your amulet in the front can actually pin to either side and hold the entire thing shut. This is a piece where you can be as detailed as you want. You can make yours look identical to that of the cartoon, or you can build in some more detail. You can also determine what kind of materials you want to make your amulet out of. If you want to make it out of wood or plastic or foam, that's all purely up to you. Dr. O's cloak is going to be one of the more complicated parts. You're going to need to find a cape, a vampire cape, a Dracula cape, that kind of thing. The one I'm showing you, the one in my still photos and in the video, aren't correct. This is a good example of what not to do. That cape was actually originally used for a Captain Harlock costume, and then when my father decided that he was going to cosplay Venture Brothers characters with us, we retasked that cape into being Dr. Orpheus. So you're going to need to find a cape with a purple liner, like the still photo I'm showing now. You're also going to need to modify the cape so that it looks as if it has a shoulder cape attached to it. What I did in the case of mine was I simply cut the cape horizontally right at about where the elbows of the wearer would be. I then took the lower section, the larger section, and moved it up and sewed it into the inside liner of the upper section. The next thing that you would need to do is get some gold trim, and then around the collar, around the edges, and then going down the edges of the front, you're going to have to apply gold trim. Now, if you're handy with a sewing machine, then that should be fairly easy. I was able to do the upper portion on the sewing machine, and then the lower part I had gotten lazy and I used fabric glue. But like with all things, if you take your time, you'll get it right. Now, to get his collar to stand up and to look as high as it does in the cartoon, you might have to add some wire to the inside edge of the collar. Seen in the picture here, you can see that the collar is partially bent. What I did was I took a small piece of copper wire and I ran it inside there so that I could bend it, and that way it'll help maintain its form. Otherwise, with the Dracula cape, it either lays down flat or it wants to stand straight up. This way you can manipulate it so that it'll have that bend to it at all times. Okay, remember when I said that this cape was originally Captain Harlock's cape? Well, when I was making this cape, I hoped to not modify it to the point that I couldn't go back and ever do Captain Harlock again. So when it came to the case of making Dr. Orpheus and putting his emblem on the backside, I wanted to do a more temporary attachment. So what I did was I got a piece of black satin, cut it to a triangular form, dressed up the edges on the sewing machine, and then I used a t-shirt transfer to print out and then iron on the emblem that goes on Dr. O's back. You can see it's a triangle, a circle, and a diamond. If you have more time, I highly recommend doing it properly and either having it screen printed or have it embroidered, or really follow the directions on the iron-on and make sure that you don't get any melt marks like what I have here. That's it. Some parts are easy, some parts are more complicated. A lot of pieces you'll be able to find pretty much right off the shelf or in your neighborhood thrift store. I wish you luck finding everything that you're going to need to. I also wish you luck modifying those things that you need to. I'm sure there's a lot of talented people out there that are going to unleash some great masters of mysticism. Next time on Venture Brothers Cosplay, we'll be presenting this guy. So, just to give you fair warning, go ahead and get your holographic projector ready, along with your soldering iron, and go ahead and start digging through Grandma's attic or her garage and see if you can find your old ColecoVision.